And you're welcome back to What the Papers Are Saying with me, Vivian Kai Loco. Now, it's been a pretty busy week this week in terms of stories that have popped up. But three stories caught our attention for the week, and we're hoping to delve deeper into those stories, look at the angles that the various news outlets came up with. Those three stories are hovering around the approval of ministerial nominees in matters arising, and then we also have the visit of the U.S. Vice President, and then, of course, another troubling development, the clash between some military officers and police this week in Accra. So I'm going to start with the approval of ministerial nominees and matters arising, and start with how the various news outlets reported that story, and then, of course, to do with the introduction of 3 new taxes that is currently in Parliament. So the Chronicle starts with the order to disapprove ministerial nominees. NDC insecticide kills mosquito. Very interesting caption of the headline over there. So the Chronicle, order to disapprove ministerial nominees. NDC insecticide kills mosquito. The publisher goes this way. NDC in pain, suffers broken heart over MP's betrayal. The Chronicle again, upon Nkrumah pleas with minority, please help us secure IMF deal by passing revenue amendment bills. The BNFT, IMF bailout engagements progressing well. This is Addison, the Bank of Ghana governor, speaking over there. Citi Newsroom says Akufo-Addo's new ministers lobbied hard to be approved. This is Ayariga speaking over there. Still on that, still with the Citi Newsroom, the betrayal cuts deep. Sam George to NDC MPs who voted for new ministers. And then let's wrap up with Citi Newsroom again. We will fish out NDC MPs who voted for Akufo-Addo's new ministers. That's Yamin speaking over there. So those are the some media outlets and how they captured stories to do with the approval of ministerial nominees by the president, also connected to the IMF deal, as well as the taxes that are currently in Parliament to be voted and approved or not. Now, another story, of course, has to do with the visit of the Vice President of the United States, who left yesterday. A 3-day visit to Ghana, going to the Central Region, was in Accra, among others. So let's see how that was captured. Now, Ghanaian Times says Kamala Harris visit, U.S. pledges $100 million package for Ghana. 4 others towards addressing violent extremism, instability in West Africa. The Daily Graphic says U.S. pushes for Ghana's debt reduction. Let's see how the New Crusading Guide captured that. I will facilitate economic growth in Ghana, Kamala Harris. Business Finder. U.S. offers over $1 billion support for women-led businesses. The Citi Newsroom says Kamala Harris calls for investment to empower women. The Chronicle says, I have no hands in anti-gay bill. It's before Parliament. This president speaking in reaction to a question posed to him during that visit and that joint presser with the Vice President of America. ABC News, VP Harris in Ghana addressing human rights amid anti-LGBTQ efforts in Africa. The Herald says Bagbin blasts Akufo-Addo and Kamala Harris over LGBTQ+ comments. Let's go to the Ghanaian publisher. They say, don't be intimidated by Akufo-Addo, Bagbin to anti-gay committee slams Harris. And then Citi Newsroom finally on that says, your comments on anti-gay bill and democratic backbone to Kamala Harris. Let's wrap up and move to our final story. Military and police clash at Accra Central. The Daily Graphic says, police army clash in Accra Central. And then Citi Newsroom, clash between military and police in Accra, a serious breach. That's a security analyst speaking over there. So those are some of the big stories for the week. Let's delve into those stories. I have with me 2 gentlemen. Salom Adono is a lawyer. He's also here with us at Citi FM and Citi TV. Selim, welcome.
Thank you, Vivian.
And then I have Richard Sky, also a lawyer, here with us at Citi FM and Citi TV. Richard, welcome.
Thank you, Vivian.
So, gentlemen, if you permit me, I would love for us to start with Parliament because we saw some interesting developments this week. I believe the debate to approve or not to approve the ministers, we had a very pretty long day that day in Parliament, or Tuesday or so, I believe. But let's go to the issue proper. I mean, the outcome of the votes. You have covered Parliament forever. Were you surprised? I'm sure you were expecting this, weren't you? I mean, you've not experienced a hung parliament. It's the first time, but I'm sure you knew this was going to happen.
Well, I mean, strictly speaking, this is not a hung parliament. But, I mean, there's something. It's
close to it, isn't it?
It's close to that.
Yeah.
I was not surprised because I was aware of the intense lobbying that had taken place prior to the vote, and then also I understood the nuances that were to guide how people would exercise their vote, because you're talking about relationships seriously highlighted by some of the folks who decided one way or the other. Some of the people have been friends forever. Some have been, closely related to each other in one way or the other. Some have been classmates. One served as a lawyer for some in the past. So if you look at it, all of these things were going to come to play. So the question you ask yourself is whether the NDC as a political party in seeking to derail the appointment or the passage of these 6 persons actually look closely at these factors before issuing
that directive that they should vote against.
Exactly. The edict issued by the party at Adabraka that this is a hard line, 3-line whip, you have to respect it, else, there'll be consequences. Clearly, I don't think that, first of all, I had said here that directives like that were improper. They undermine democracy, they undermine the Constitution, they undermine the right of a member of Parliament to exercise his choice.
But what the party was seeking to do in terms of saying that, well, we think government should cut down. We all know what happened was actually a replacement of ministers that were already there. But
plus one addition.
Yes, plus the one. Sending the message that most Ghanaians feel that the number of ministers are too much. We need to cut down. And we agree with our constituents and all that. That was, a positive thing to push their members to do.
I agree in principle, and I've stated that publicly, that the size of this government is unreasonable. It's too huge. It's a behemoth of a government, and we have got to cut it down. That position we are not compromising on. The question is whether in jumping on the back of that, which appears to be a popular thing to do, you also as a political party considered all the dynamics involved in how people exercise
the reality.
Exactly, because I mean, if you look at it, the Constitution is clear that on matters like that, you have to take the vote in secret. And when people are acting in secret, majority of the times, they do what they believe, aligns with their conscience. You understand? So if you are not going to walk them out by exercising your choice to abandon the process altogether by saying that, okay, we are staging a walkout, so the NDC will not be part of this, you wash your hands off the entire process, and then you leave. In that case, you leave the MPs with no choice but to go out. They are not going into the booth to decide one way or the other whether a member...
But is there anything really from experience in Parliament and reading around this voting thing, anything really as a secret ballot in Parliament with the whip, there and all that? Is there anything like that really?
You see, the Constitution demands, and with your permission, let me quote the provisions of Article 104, Clause 4 of the Constitution. It says that where Parliament is considering a bill to amend the Constitution, or where the voting is in relation to the election or removal of any person under this Constitution or under any other law, voting shall be in secret. Of course, ministers are appointed by the President. The nomination is done by the President, approval by Parliament, and then he appoints subsequently. If you interpret the language of the Constitution, it is expansive enough as to accommodate ministers because they are appointed on the authority of the Constitution of the Republic. So then, what happens by way of voting for them, where the House is taking a decision on their fate, is strictly speaking an election. Do you understand? So the Constitution demands that members of Parliament, in exercising their right to vote, would have to do it in secret. Now, the question you ask yourself is whether what happened in Parliament recently was consistent with the Constitution. And I submit respectfully that it was egregious violation of the Constitution, and there have got to be consequences. Of course, we saw in the past. I mean, when Peter Lajete was to be re-elected as Speaker, the MPP thought that no, we don't want him back because he had grown wings. Let's clip him. So his tenure has properly expired. They decided to go for Virginia Citi Hughes, if my memory serves me correctly. The NDC said, no, we believed in what Peter Lajete was doing. He was trying to firm up Parliament and make it a truly strong institution, capable of holding the government accountable, and make that institution a vibrant one that will police our democracy. So they proposed him as a counter candidate, and it came to a vote. At that time, what the MPP people demanded was that when you vote, you show your vote. Yeah. So the people go and they vote, and then they show it to someone who was close by to see exactly how they align. Yeah. Ultimately, they got Virginia Citi Hughes through. Yeah. But you see, that was in clear violation of the Constitution. But it went unchallenged. People didn't do much about it. And here we have a new group of people seeking to block the election of, some ministers. Yes, that's right. Nominated. Exactly. And then you have MPs who should know better, who have sworn that they will protect the Constitution and all other laws of this republic. They go into the booth. Some have recorded themselves with video camera. Others took photographs. And others recorded themselves saying what exactly they were doing in the booth. In clear violation of the Constitution. I think, strictly speaking, there should be consequences. Because we cannot allow a situation where the folks who make the laws for all of us to obey, and the Constitution says that nobody is above the law, they will go in there and violate the Constitution. Of course, as I stated, I am against the current size of the government. The president has the power to prune it down by merging ministries that are completely needless in my view, putting them together and sending some people home because, quite frankly, they are not living up to the billing in terms of what they promised they were going to do. So cut the size. You understand? That should happen. But I do not believe that necessarily blocking new nominations would basically force the hands of the president in that direction. Because, as I have argued previously, it is possible that he wants certain people in government in order to inform his decision as to whether he wants to consolidate or not. Okay. So pressure must be on the president. He must realign his government and ensure that it reflects the true aspirations of quite a number of people who believe that the government is oversized. Okay.
And I'll come back to you, but let me come to Iselom. Thank you for joining us again. Surprised by the vote, and then secondly, from what happened, it appears the party is not in control of its members like it thought it was. Sent a directive, vote against, and they defied it.
Well, surprised, not quite. I was open to anything because once it's secret, anything can happen. Sky talks about the fact that when you are to cast a secret ballot, then you vote your conscience. That's true largely, but I think my rendition would be that when you have to vote in secret, you vote what you want to vote. It may not necessarily be your conscience because there could be influences here and there. So if you leave it at conscience, then it means anybody who votes secretly does the right thing. But there are people who can be influenced in one way or the other to vote against a certain position. It may be against their conscience or not, but you know, I think that the situation really is I think it's a bit nuanced than we look at it. People go to parliament, you know, for various reasons. And there are two modes or two vehicles, you know, you can use to go to parliament. You can go there as an independent candidate, or you can go there sponsored by a political party. There's a reason why you choose to go to parliament as an independent candidate. You go there with a free, like you are free thinking. You do what you want to do once it's within the laws. But once you agree to be sponsored by a party, or you go on the party's ticket or on the platform of a political party, you cannot entirely be independent. I've heard arguments for and against. You cannot be entirely independent because you went there sponsored by a party. So once you went there sponsored by a party, then it means that you have subscribed to certain ideals, and that takes away some of your independence. So in cases mostly, you will see the party, you know, issuing certain directives, and you have to follow that. I think the difficulty which came with this was that the party tried to force its way in a manner that made the people feel that they were treated like kids. The issue about the change of leadership happened a few weeks prior, and that matter hadn't settled fully. And the issues that came with the change of leadership, of course, the explanation and reasons Stephen Kete and Co gave, you know, really, you know, we're not tenable, you know, economics, etc. Then, if that is the case, then Dufour should be the one running or being the lead to be president, and all of them who are supporting John Mahama should be supporting Dufour, because Dufour is a through and through economist. So that wasn't really a very tenable argument. The point really was that they felt that the Haruna administration, you know, was making deals. That was what it was, and so they had brought in a fresh group of people who they thought were going to do their work. But that in itself had a difficulty because the confusion or the unhappiness hadn't settled. So now you have this huge vote. Mind you, there was one where Haruna and Co. Muntaka and Co. presided over, you know, led to a huge uproar in the party. Sami Jemfi and Co. writing a stinker, you know, naming the speaker and all of those people in it. Until date, nothing has happened to Sami Jemfi, which tells you that reflected a certain view of a certain, you know, big people in the party. Nothing happened. I'm not saying something should happen to him, but he's an executive of the party, and he expresses his views in such strong terms against such strong people, but nothing happened. Subsequently, there's a change in leadership, and then now a similar thing is about to happen. The loyalists to Haruna in parliament will not leave this to go just like that, for them to say that we said it. Now Atuforsen has come to deliver the goods. It wouldn't have been great for Haruna. It would have been super for Atuforsen. So there's internal politics and there's all of that. They did not negotiate that well. So when you go on a party's ticket, when you're a sponsored candidate or a sponsored MP, that sponsored MP and the party must know where their power ends. A lot of those things, I thought, could have been done better through negotiation. They should have engaged better with the people so they know exactly what they are expecting or what they are to do. There are a lot of influences. When it comes to secret balloting, I think the party underrated the influence of factors like Sky mentioned, you know, regions old boyism or old schoolism, you know, a whole lot. I even heard the MPs from Volta region were told by their chiefs that the two Supreme Court justices, one is from the region. So go and do so vote for him. And indeed, I hear they brought that to the fore. Wow. And the people said, well, if that is the case, we all have interests. So if you guys are going to vote for this candidate we are all saying should not go on principle, then everybody would just do what they want. So the point is, which influence is bigger? You go and vote against somebody your chief wants, and your chief holds the power, usually in those areas, rural often. What they tell the people is what sometimes they do, you know. Will you go against that, even though it may not be, you may not be pointed that you did it, but once a person doesn't go through, it means you didn't do your job well. Will you want to raise that? Sometimes the people even have personal relationships with the people, which are stronger than what they have for the party bond, So some are brothers. Jinapo and his brother are there. So are you saying that if his brother was one of them, he should go into the box, look at his brother's face, and vote against him? When he goes home, what will his father say? What will his mother tell him? Those influences, I thought the party underrated. And that was what we had. Those influences may exist, but you can negotiate and have a first sense of how things will really turn out. So the Haruna factor, I don't think, was properly handled. The NDC at Abraka office, I thought, underrated the other influences. And the fact that they also did not negotiate properly, what really they wanted. I read Suhini's write-up, and he makes the point that, engagement on this, was not great. There was no serious engagement on this. And you could feel a sense of pain in the write-up. A lot of them are disappointed, and a lot of them are now having to prove their innocence, that indeed they voted the right way.
Yeah.
But the actions of others, have had to put them in a certain light. I think it's a big lesson for everybody. We need to engage more. We need to ensure that what is right is done. I could understand the party also, because the party was trying to, as it were, or as it claimed, trying to put out a principled position, that you have criticized the government for being an elephant-sized government, etc. Now you have an opportunity to tell the government that, we disapprove of this. What better opportunity in their view than to vote against those guys, so that if really the government wanted those guys in those offices, they could do some rationalization, turn some people around, make some people go home, and see if they can bring them back, or things like that. Nothing like that was done. And then now we have where we are really.
But
let me just quickly say that I with the greatest respect, I disagree with Salom when he says that political parties should inform what their members of parliament do because they sponsor a member. I disagree with that view. Yes, political parties serve as a vehicle in some cases for getting people into parliament. That's why the Constitution even allows non-aligned persons, in other words, independent candidates, to make it to parliament. Do you understand? So in that case, what are you going to say? The person is his own lord. My view, and of course, that view aligns to some extent with the view expressed by H. Kwesi Prempeh, that a vote taken by a member of parliament is not that of a political party. He goes as far as saying that it is not even the vote of the constituents who sent him to parliament. That is where I depart from him. Of course, to a large extent, that argument can be made. But I take the view that when a member of parliament is about exercising his vote, especially when it is on a crucial matter like this one, which is provoking a national debate as to whether, we need more ministers, the ideal thing that ought to have happened was to have gone back to your constituents to say that, hey, the people of Ketusau, I represent you in parliament. This is a major matter. What do you think of what I want to go and do in parliament? Let them tell you that, look, we think that you should go and vote A or B. And then you come to parliament and you reflect that. The idea that we will sit around and then political party people sitting in their offices.
But what's
with
the
no
role?
representation.
What's the role of the party in the lives of the MPs?
That's what I'm saying, that you provide a broad framework as a political party, because under the Constitution, they help shape the political discourse and policies and all kinds of things in our country. You understand? So yes, you provide that broad framework. This is our position, even in the UK, where the whole three-line whip business originated. If you look at SKMA, which is the absolute authority on parliamentary practice and procedure, punishment can come with what? Going rogue against the party's position. But that doesn't mean that you are thrown out of parliament. Okay. You understand? They can remove the whip from you, in which case you are made to suffer a few consequences here and there. But we are under a constitutional democracy in the sense of a written constitution. And I do not believe that a political party can be directing, strictly speaking, what a member of parliament does or does not do. Because if you go to Article 122 of the Constitution, contempt of parliament, it says that an act or omission, with your permission, which obstructs or impedes parliament in the performance of its functions, or which obstructs or impedes a member or officer of parliament in the discharge of his duties, or affronts the dignity of Parliament, or which tends either directly or indirectly to produce that result, is contempt of Parliament. And I believe that the language of this particular provision is expansive enough as to accommodate the conduct that we have seen from NDC and their loyalists over the past few days. People have insulted members of Parliament. People have threatened them with all kinds of things. People have called them all kinds of names, attacking them merely because they went to Parliament to exercise their right to choose. I think that we should not allow that. And I would not be surprised where it gets to a point where a member of Parliament thinks that we've had enough of this. We are going to hold some of these people before Parliament.
Privileges committee.
Yeah, that's right. And then secondly, I think also that there should be consequences for the members of Parliament who misconducted themselves. Because the Constitution is clear. Some people argue that, the secret voting should be reserved for certain Speaker and some other people. Yeah. But if you read the Constitution, my respectful submission is that to the extent that ministers are appointed under the Constitution, the language used, election, is properly engaged. And therefore, the secret balloting thing that went on ought to have been done properly in line with the Constitution.
Okay, I have to take a quick break. When I come back, I'll allow you, and then
sure.
We'll wrap up on this matter. This is what the papers are saying. My name is Vivian Kai. Look, I'm here with Richard Sky as well as Salam Adunu. We'll be right back and wrap up on what we saw in Parliament this week with regards to voting to approve the president's nominees for ministers. Do stay with us. We'll be right back.
In 1831, the Danish governor, on behalf of the Danish government, purchased the deed for a newly established plantation in the Kuapim range north of Accra, Bikuben, the Beehive.
The Heritage Month on Citi is on. Allow us to take you on a journey to rediscover our rich heritage and traditions through the art of storytelling on the Heritage On Air series. In this season of the Heritage On Air series, we will explore aspects of our cultural legacy that focuses on our people, food, places, and music. Join us as we delve into the narratives surrounding our various ethnic groups and historical figures of interest. We will bring you conversations dedicated to special exposés on our different indigenous meals and historical facts about the food we eat. We will also take you on a visit to historical places of significance and highlight stories linked to our colonial governance interspersed with a celebration of our Ghanaian security service. We'll walk you through the evolution with a detailed appreciation of our Ghanaian musical prowess from antiquity. Let's make a date on Citi TV and Citi FM from the 1st to the 31st of March 2023 as we bring you the stories that reflect the diversified culture of our people, food, places, and music on the Heritage On Air series. The Heritage On Air series is powered by Citi TV with support from Citi FM and is sponsored by the National Lotteries Authority.
Welcome back to what the papers are saying. My name is Vivian Kai. Look, I'm here with Salam Adunu as well as Richard Sky. We're wrapping up on our discussions on the approval of ministers by the president, his nominees, and of course the back and forth with the NDC and its members in Parliament. The directive from the party was do not approve or vote for the approval of those ministers, but otherwise was done. Salam, your reactions to what...
Just briefly before you go, I just want to throw in the provision. If you look at the Constitution, Article 55, Clause 3, it tells us what political parties basically are to do in our country. It says, subject to the provisions of this article, a political party is free to participate in shaping the political will of the people, to disseminate information on political ideas, social and economic programs of a national character, and sponsor candidates for elections to any public office other than to district assemblies or local lower local government units, unquote. There's nowhere in the Constitution when a political party is given constitutional authority or any legal authority thereafter to direct a member of parliament how he should act.
But you know that if I'm sponsoring you on my ticket,
what
are the gains?
Probably defined here in the Constitution.
No, Sky, you're not being fair. You're not being fair here. You're not being fair here.
They say he who plays the piper calls a tune.
Yeah.
If you decide to run on my platform, largely you play by my rules.
Yeah,
once the rules are not, in conflict with the Constitution or in conflict with law, that is a rule.
The Constitution says
if you're interpreting the Constitution, you interpret it liberally.
Yes, sir.
We're talking about shaping the political will and the political will of the people, disseminating information on political ideas, etc. Shaping the political will could take a lot of forms once it is not illegal.
I just cited contempt of parliament.
No, which is contempt? No, you telling me, no, you see, your citing of contempt of parliament, referring to, I think, 122 or so, is in respect of the aftermath of the voting. People insult politicians all the time.
Including urging members of parliament to violate the Constitution.
Violate which
to
Constitution?
take videos of what they were doing
I'm
in
not
the
sure.
booth.
I'm not sure anybody told anybody to take
a
That is their
video.
own
I
problem.
was there. And
they
I
told-
even
well,
I broke the news
I'm saying
on
if
Citi
Of the
television.
party said when you vote, take a picture.
No, no.
You don't have, there's no fact.
No, it was not publicly stated.
No,
and
I'm
I
saying
know
that-
what I'm
No,
talking
we
about.
cannot
Wait,
use
but that is you, and that's for you to prove. I wasn't there, and what I'm saying is what we all know publicly. As far as I know, it is wrong to direct somebody to take video or a picture of the person's secret ballot. That is wrong. We are all on the same page on that. But I'm saying that the party directing or influencing its members, in this case, members of parliament, to vote in a certain direction, does nothing to violate the Constitution. Does nothing which is close to contempt of parliament.
I disagree with that.
Contempt of parliament resulting from people insulting members of parliament is totally different from how a party wants them to vote. People insult politicians all the time. It is wrong to insult anybody. It is wrong to insult politicians. If somebody insults the person, let's deal with that matter. And let's not connect it to a party directing or telling its people to vote a certain way. I don't think it's contempt of parliament. In any case, the members of parliament are going to do what they felt or feel was proper. They've done that. That is the result. The party is unhappy, etc. But you cannot interpret the direction of the party to its people to vote a certain way as contemptuous of parliament. I don't think so.
Well, I mean, that's okay. I mean, we disagree on the subject matter, how the directive was issued. And I've cited to you what the language of the Constitution
No, the language of
is.
the Constitution,
You say that you are
we
interpreting,
can debate
shaping
that.
the political will of the people to include directing members of parliament as to how they should act.
Of course.
I disagree with that. That is why, even under the Constitution insists that members of parliament shall have the right to free speech when they are discussing or taking part in proceedings in parliament. So if you look at the language of the Constitution in its entirety, the document in its entirety, I disagree with the submission that a member of parliament can be directed, and that direction enforced by a political party with whatever tool that is at their
But is it
disposal.
out of place? Is it out of
including
place?
insistence that they should breach the Constitution and the representation of
How
the
did
I
they
don't know
breach
about
the
that breach.
Constitution?
And I don't know about the
Yes,
freedom of speech.
Are you talking about the picture taking?
Yes.
Which
No,
we
no,
don't
no,
know
we-
for a
that
fact
was-
that the
that
Forget
was
that.
to enforce this directive.
No, we have to take that bit out because that's something.
The Alajete Virginia such a huge matter. When a party again directed that when you vote, show it to somebody. We condemn that. It's not wrong. I mean, it's not right. It's wrong.
Yeah.
So we are agreed on that. So I'm saying that you don't need to take pictures when you cast a secret ballot, but that the party directing, I'm not sure is contemptuous of parliament.
I'm saying that
it is not.
You see, the taking of pictures to show that you voted a particular way flows from the direction so issued.
No,
because the party wanted to enforce that position.
The document we have is the statement issued by the General Secretary.
With the greatest respect, sir.
And I am not privy to that.
I am telling you, I was in Parliament that day.
So that's fine. And I'm saying that I don't have that information.
I'm
I'm saying
stating
to
it
you
here.
that if indeed it happened, that is wrong. People take pictures and do all kinds of things every time. But if it so happened, that is wrong. So let's put that aside because it shouldn't be. That is an affront to the principle of secret ballot.
Why did they take the photograph?
I don't know. They took it
And
for
I'm
various
telling
reasons.
you, they took the photograph
guys.
For all you
in
know-
order to live up to the party's directive.
No, for all you know,
that
somebody
we
took
want
it for
to
his own
enforce
reason.
a party line.
But that's what we are saying, that we don't know for a fact that
Not
we don't have evidence to prove.
I am
that
saying I was there.
Yeah, you saw the
and I
pictures
spoke to
being
party
taken,
people.
and they said the party demanded
Yes,
they send
I was there when they were sending the photographs.
So why didn't a lot of them do? Why did you see just a few of them do?
Many were defiant.
So there were people with conscience and people who were minded by their oath that they took to abide by the principles and the language of this constitution, who decided that to hell with it.
But they still voted a party line, only that they didn't take pictures.
Well, they said they voted a party line.
Yes. So was that
Some said that they did not
coercion,
vote
or was
the party
that
line
because
they are members of parliament, freely exercising their right to vote in the booth, and they're entitled to do that. What I'm saying is that we should not encourage political parties. Only a few people sat and took that decision, that let's go this way, without even consulting or engaging them or giving them an opportunity.
Reflect the directive of saying that don't vote for the people because we feel the government's ministers are too many. Doesn't it reflect on what the majority of
I am saying
Ghanaians
that
want?
you are
So
at liberty.
to say that
You see, the Constitution says that
the
Constitution says that shaping the political will of the people. To
We
disseminate
understand.
information of political ideas. So they are at liberty to say that, oh, this is the party's view.
Yes.
You understand? This is the party's view on
Yes.
the matter.
And not just say view, but
you see, but the problem here is you direct and seek to enforce that directive. That is why I'm saying that to the extent that you issue the directive, which directive you sought to enforce in a way as to slap the Constitution in the face.
No, what was the enforcement? I think the enforcement is where we differ. We
are all like disagree with
No, I don't know that. What I know is what the party has
said.
said, the official
Leave that
document.
to me.
Yes, so, and I'm saying that
Anyway.
we are speaking to the public, really.
Yes.
So we don't know that. And what we can speak to is the official document the party has issued. And I'm saying that I don't see anywhere in that statement the party asking the people to take pictures. And we've also said that if indeed the party did as you're saying, then it's wrong. You understand? Aside from that, quite a number of people voted the party line, but how many of them took pictures? So notwithstanding,
They are the big boys
no,
who would
notwithstanding, not necessarily, just a few of them took pictures. Notwithstanding your evidence, or however you put it, of knowing or knowing that the people were asked to take pictures, an overwhelming number of the minority voted the party line. So what does that place the argument that the direction to vote a certain way was contemptuous of parliament? It not necessarily so. Parties have a role to play in all of this. They shape the political ideas and will of the people.
Yes.
Doing this is part of it. They forged a certain campaign, told the people of Ghana that the government size was big, and we are going to vote against it, and directed their people that this is what our people are saying. You are here for our people. You went on our platform, and this is what our people are saying. So go and ensure that is done. That was. I don't see anything wrong constitutionally with that. You can have a moral argument around that, but legally, I don't really see anything wrong with that.
Okay. There are as many lawyers as there are noses.
And you just disagree to some extent
ways.
with HKP.
Yeah, that's right.
Because
That's fair.
of course, so it's of course he made 2 or 3 points. You agree with 1 or 2, and he's agreed with the other.
Yeah.
He will also come strongly and defend that. So I mean, it's
Okay, guys, I think we have to move on this matter. I think both ways your stance are clear and all that. We'll leave the public to
decide
along.
yes.
So let's move to the 3-day visit by Vice President Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
Quite some interesting statements, donations, gifts, and all that. But I think the one that caught the attention of many had to do with the statement by the President and herself, the Vice President, on the LGBTQ issue. Among 1 or 2 other things. But I think I'll start with Selom. Sky had the first take on the first. So Selom,
yes,
what was your reaction with that, strong comment coming from Kamala, and then of course the President, thoughts on where we've gotten to and what he can do at the end of the day?
Well, I think it's always a nice experience having people from the so-called big countries visiting your country. It's some kind of validation, if it's anything to go by at all, that they believe in what you're doing. And particularly in these times, we see what a lot have called a scramble for Africa. Again, we see Russia, we see China, we see the United States. I mean, trying to win more souls in Africa. Kamala Harris is coming to Ghana. It's in furtherance of that, I believe. Of course, the U.S. has a view on certain matters, and I was not surprised at all that that question came up. And if our people did not anticipate that question, then I'm not sure they are doing a good job. I think our president, has not always been very frontal with the issue of LGBT. I recall that was an Al Jazeera interview, an interview where he said it was bound to happen, etc. I mean, when you subject those views to some analysis, you can understand where he's thinking from, in terms of the fact that there are things which, given time, will settle on their own. And in his view, he thought LGBT was one of those. Indeed, just about 20 or 15, 20 years ago, you couldn't have an open discussion on LGBT in terms of promoting it, but we see that every time. So yes, matter of time, we can see some of these things settling. I think what people think or people expect is that the president should be a bit more direct about his revulsion at LGBT, because people think that that is representative of the views of a majority of Ghanaians, our culture, traditions, etc. That is what people think. So when they see the president not taking full responsibility or full control on the matter of LGBT and reflecting the views as expressed by people of Ghana generally, that we do not want that, we will not promote it, we will not ensure that it happens, then the people have a problem. Kamala Harris's view, of course, she's an American, and that is American view. I didn't expect her to say that, Ghana should do how it pleases or what it pleases. It's a game of influence. She will try and influence it. And I'll not be surprised if a lot of the assistance they are giving us in this IMF thing is all tied to this to some extent.
Yeah.
Because now it's like we are at a low place. We're looking up to them to help us put these IMF things through, etc. So I expected the president to be a bit more direct. Like a few years ago, when the matter came up in Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta was very direct. He said it was a non-issue in Kenya. The issues that confront Kenyans were bread and butter issues and not matters of LGBT, etc. And the matter died from that.
But wasn't he struggling to be direct, really, because of what is at stake?
Who the president?
Yes.
But the fact that it's a lot of things. Because the person is feeding you, the person is able to tell you what they want.
Yeah.
But sometimes when somebody is feeding you, need to let the person know where the person's limits are. The people don't want that. The people of Ghana have spoken. Yeah. The people of Ghana speak every time.
You need money. The person's going to give money to
what is
do
the
with
reflection?
Your debt?
What is the reflective view of the people of Ghana? Generally, what I hear is that they do not want that. And so, as president, I thought he could have been a bit more direct in reflecting that particular view. Kamala Harris did what she had to do as an American. Moving on from that, I also heard the speaker's view. The speaker's view was a bit more direct. Of course, he can decide to speak that way because, the crown is not on his head, so he could speak the way he spoke. But I think she also misunderstood the president. The president didn't say he was going to intervene in the process in Parliament. Yeah. At the end of it, the president has a role to play. Yeah. So the president is saying that that's where he will intervene. There are a few things the Constitution allows him to do. I think Article 106 or so allows him to do as part of the process. And even it goes back to Parliament, and Parliament has a role to play. Parliament can say, no, with all the things that we've reconsidered it, we think this is how it should be, and that should reflect in the votes of the House. If the House decides overwhelmingly to vote that to text or so, that let it go through, the president has no option. He will have to sign it. So I think that's what really the discussion should be, and not the fact that the president said he was going to intervene in the matter in Parliament, and so telling the MPs on the committee to go ahead and do that. I thought he didn't get that well, and maybe you should have done a bit more work on that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know which side of it you want me to tackle, whether it's the Harris comment or the president's comment. Or
you start with Harris, go to the president, then of course the speakers.
Well, I mean, it's if you listen to the comments made by the vice president of the U.S. Who visited us, she was terse about what she intended to say. She was nuanced, sort of even avoided some of the traps that the question sought to set for her. Basically, alluding to her history and what she's done on the matter of gay and lesbian rights, you know, in the U.S. And that public record, she said, is there, and that is not about changing her views on the matter, merely because she's in Ghana. But if you listen carefully to the question that was asked, the question was seeking to get the Biden administration to call out Ghana, because Ghana was seeking through private members' bail to pass a draconian legislation on those practices some people disapprove of in our country. So, although she was smart and diplomatic in dealing with the matter, she sort of avoided, some of the traps set in there, and which did not do justice fully to the question.
Okay. Sky, give me 1 minute roughly. Let me take a quick break.
Okay.
I'll let you make your submissions. This is what the papers are saying. My name is Vivian Kai Loko, here with Selam Adonu as well as Richard Sky. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Citi TV is live on DSTV. Go to channel 363. On GoTV, access Citi TV on channel 182. On a digital TV, please press the menu button on the remote control and run a new search on your TV. Take note that without an antenna, you cannot access Citi TV on your television. Citi TV can be accessed on a free-to-air digital box like the GoTV and StarTimes box. Citi TV, it's your world.
So you're welcome back to what the papers are saying. My name is Vivian Kai Loko, here with Richard Sky and Selam Adonu. Richard, you are making your submissions on the Vice President
Yes,
of America.
Kamala Harris. Yes.
Yeah.
So so she was very nuanced, but although she did a great job, trying to keep everything in check, she also avoided a huge chunk of the question, which was about what she was going to tell or what she had told the president on the subject matter of the contentious bail. Of course, it matters like this. It is not only what is stated publicly. It is also what is stated in private.
Yeah, closed door.
Now, yes, so in their closed door meetings, we were not there. So the question is, what did she tell our president? You and I were not there, so that's an entirely different matter.
Yeah.
Then the president responded. Now, people are trying to gauge the president's response with that of, the late Professor Mills when he was, asked a question on this particular matter, and it was sort of linked to aid flows to Ghana. And he was robust on the matter and said it would not happen under his presidency, and took on the matter. This is the view of Ghanaians, and basically stated clearly that, look, we will not allow this in our jurisdiction. Our president presently didn't do that. He sort of sought to, if you like, take a more diplomatic approach to the matter. Because, mind you, the context is different. Under Mills, we had a different economic climate. In the current
we still
situation,
have challenges at the time, still struggling.
Yeah, but we are not presently, we were not
as bad as what
begging
it is now. Okay.
the way we were doing, or we are doing now, before the IMF. So the climate is entirely different. And if the U.S., which basically is the country that essentially controls the G20, which controls the Paris, club, the IMF and the World Bank,
superpower
and all these institutions, is saying that we will support you to get the money that you want. When they say they are doing that, you also have to be guided by their foreign policy decisions. What do they want? And you know that they have been robust on this matter, that look, these new rights should not be infringed by any new legislation anywhere in this world. Of course, people call them hypocritical when it comes to how they approach the situation in Qatar and Saudi Arabia and some other countries. But those countries are almost
dependent on
them. Yeah, that's right. They're self-sufficient. We are begging. So the Honorable Bagbin, understanding the global picture and possibly aware of what may or may not happen, may have happened privately, decides to go ballistic, capitalizing on what was publicly stated, and went off on a tirade directed at both the President of the Republic and then also
the Vice
Kamala
President.
Harris. So,
yeah.
I mean, look, the point is, this matter, the bill will be laid in Parliament as we understand it. MPs will take a decision on it, whether to approve or not to approve. Each and every clause in that bill will be voted upon. When it is finally passed, that is, should I say if? Okay, if it is finally passed, it will go before the President. The President, under the Constitution, has a right to say that he will not sign it with reasons, which reasons he must send back to the House and ask them respectfully that they should consider it. If they consider it and they say that, look, we are satisfied with this thing, we are not going to change anything about it, and they vote to third majority as Selam stated, and it goes back to him, it is for him to now sign it or not sign it, because this matter came up when we're doing constitutional law. There's some debate as to whether the President is under compulsion at that point to sign it. Some people argue that the effect of the Constitution, and that will go to, what do you call it, Article 106 of the Constitution. It says that when the bill considered under Clause 109, Clause 9 of this article, is passed by Parliament by a resolution supported by the votes of not less than 2/3 of all members of Parliament, the President shall, so the word used there is shall, assent to it within 14 days after the passing of the resolution. He is directed. The Constitution says shall.
30 days, within 30 days.
Is it what? After 30 days, yes, 30 days. Now, the question, shall, is you are under compulsion to do it. But some legal brains take the view that, no, the President can say he will not sign it. Now, if he says he will not sign it, what do? Because the effect of the language of the Constitution is to sort of override the presidential veto. Strictly speaking, we don't have veto like as the US people use it, but loosely, that is what the Constitution is seeking to do. To say that the President has the right to say that, look, I have some problems with it. Can you go and take a second look at it? If Parliament takes a second look at it and takes the view that, look, overwhelming majority of us believe that you should sign it, the language of the Constitution says you shall. But if the President says he will not, what happens? Then the Supreme Court may well have to be called upon to either direct the President or to tell us whether the President's actions will be constitutional. We wait to see what will happen if ultimately
he decides not to sign.
The language of the President sort of suggests that
I may not sign it.
Yeah, he may come in at some point. Of course, he will come in, the Constitution so says. But what is he likely to do if he takes the view that the entirety of the law or a part of it is inconsistent with the Constitution in his understanding? It is something that has not yet been explored, and we wait to see how it will go.
We'll see how that goes. So, do you have any final?
So I think what will happen in the end is the President will have to sign it, but what they will try to do is to try to water down some of the clauses which they may consider very harsh, and come to a certain compromise, and that's what it will be, a certain compromise, because the President is a politician. He has a political contest. He wants to leave a legacy, so, and all of that. And even politically, when we get there, whoever the person is it Baumia or Alan or whoever, will be forced to make a pronouncement on that. And if it is Baumia and he's forced to make a pronouncement on that, you can be sure where that pronouncement will be, because he's a Muslim, and Muslims are even more, averse to this whole homosexual thing or LGBT thing than anybody else. So that will be an interesting thing to watch. He's a politician. There's a huge political cost to whatever he does. If the bill is passed by Parliament, he sends it back to them with his recommendations for reconsideration. Parliament reconsiders it. They say that they think the way it is fine, and they pass it to third majority, and it goes through and he says he will not sign, it will become a political matter. And being a politician and somebody who wants to leave a certain legacy, we'll see where he will pass with that. He will have to sign.
So we'll see that the bill has been laid now. The Honorable Sam George was saying that they are hoping that at the end of the day...
Has it been late?
Yes.
Today
Today it was late.
So it was late today?
Yes.
Oh, I see.
So
This is interesting. So is it a coincidence or they were ready?
Well, I'm sure that explains why
You
maybe
should ask
Bachman
yourself
spoke.
why they ordinarily would have expected that the vice president would address parliament. When top dignitaries like that, Obama came.
Yeah.
Salom
Well, yeah, we
Corbett
didn't see
Corbett
her
him.
in parliament.
He was in parliament to address the house.
Yeah.
And the Turkish president, Erdogan, came to Ghana.
Is it because she's vice?
Well, you know,
Well,
maybe there are some issues that we do not know. She chose to go and address
the future generation.
They are the future.
Yeah.
They are the future.
But Clinton,
It would have
she
been
didn't.
obnoxious to see the U.S. vice president addressing a parliament that is taking what would seem to be a draconian stance on these new rights, as they call them in the
But Scott,
But
to
she
be
could have
fair, I mean, she could
convince.
have, but I'm not sure that the parliament is like the president said, just a handful of private members. So it is not a parliament as we have it now doing that, just a handful of members. But we think that given the nature of our politics and our culture and traditions, etc., and the fact that this will be open, a lot of the MPs will go for it. But now I don't think it would be fair to say that the whole parliament is seeking to pass a draconian law. For now, it's a few people, and we hope to see, or we wait to see how that will turn out. Indeed, Bill Clinton was in Ghana. He didn't address parliament, as far as I remember.
That was
in
even a
98?
short visit. But
Very
the MPs were
good.
called in there.
Was it Independence Square?
Independence
Yeah, all of
Square,
that. All right, but a lot of presidents come to Ghana. They don't really address
not all
parliament.
the
Yeah,
time.
so
Yes, that's true.
I don't know what went into that. Really.
Well, we'll see how the vote goes. We have to end our time's up. But thank you so much, gentlemen.
We have taxes tomorrow, though.
Yes,
that vote will be
tomorrow.
taken
The taxes,
Yes,
the
the
taxes
So that
will
the
go through.
NDC the NDC will robustly oppose the new taxes.
We
are told they will approve.
The
We'll
taxes
see.
will
No,
go
I'm
through.
They will
told
oppose
that,
the
yeah,
taxes.
they will
Okay.
robustly oppose it, oppose them. And you know, the Constitution doesn't require secrecy.
It's not-
in that
it's
one.
not
What was that one?
So
We'll see the real numbers. It's just happening in town now.
Yes, today she was in Parliament.
Okay, so we're
And
likely to
as
see
I
her.
stated on the Citi Breakfast Show today, the government side is seeking to play ball with her in a way. I'm told they want to bend over backwards.
But what's the problem? What's the problem?
Well,
Because
she-
the
when she
minority
came-
side tried to get her out.
No.
But
first
she
of
even
all,
said that now she's going full support
So
of
why
the
wasn't
party.
why wasn't she in the
Parliament
house
when the ministers
with the
were being
ministers?
Maybe she wasn't.
And mind you, she was removed as Minister for Gender for staying in the US for quite some time. A problem started when she removed, what's her name? Carrie Kashiga's wife from the role of manager of the
cooking
school
thing,
feeding.
I
yeah.
think
School
she
feeding thing.
overstated her influence. There are
Yeah.
things you don't do. You measure your influence before you take certain actions.
Yeah.
I think she failed to
Sometimes
do that.
they think the influence.
The fact that somebody is
still-
your subordinate doesn't mean that you are necessarily
Yeah, the
more
boss.
influential than
The
the
boss.
person.
Anyway, guys, I have to wrap up. Tomorrow we'll be bringing you the live proceedings from
Everything.
Parliament with regards to the 3 taxes. So you'll want to keep your dial on Citi 97.3 FM and also Citi TV. We'll be bringing you full production, discussions, analysis, and also a live broadcast of that from Parliament. But thank you very much, Richard Sky and Selam Adonu, for joining us tonight on What the Papers Are Saying. We'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye.